Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Steggy again, and in today's video slash podcast, and I realized I do tend to just kind of ramble, and I put some pictures on the screen about cards and things I'm talking about, and so it is mostly like a podcast. It's not like I'm really showing anything, so it's like my video podcast. So in today's like video podcast, I'm just gonna go ahead and be ranking the Lorcana cards that have been shown so far. As we've been saying in the community, we don't really know how to play. We have no idea. We have assumptions and, gameplay and mechanics. I even made a video about how I think the game is played. With that being said, I am going to be ranking the cards on how I feel the game is going to be played. I have played a lot of trading card games, especially at a competitive level, several of them at a competitive level, being the Pokemon trading card game, Naruto, Bleach, and Duel Masters. And I actually wrote articles for the website pojo.com way back in the day for both Pokemon and Duel Masters. So that was really fun. I did that when I was much younger. That was a whole lifetime ago. But it was great. I really like Duel Masters. That was one of my absolute favorite trading card games, and I was so sad when it finished. I know they have like Kaijudo, but it's just not the same. But anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and just be ranking these cards. And I'm finding all the cards on Lorcana.com, which is an absolute fantastic website for any and all resources for Lorcana. And there's no rhyme or reason. There's no set path or anything. The most recent cards shown are the Wardrobe, the Scar, and Aladdin cards that were just recently shown. So at the time of this video, I'm going to be talking about cards up until those three. If any cards come out today, like it's a Monday, if any of them come out today, one or two, they're not going to be in this video. So anyway, let's just go ahead and get started. I'm going to be ranking the cards from just a number scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being I would never play this card in a deck, and 10 being I'm going to be playing as many copies as I can of this card in every deck that shares a color with it, because I think it's that good. So let's go ahead and let's just dive in. Let's get started. Up first, I do want to talk about our only action card, which is called Dragonfire. Dragonfire is a red card. It costs 5 resources, and it simply says, banish chosen character. Now, this is pretty solid. When I used to play Duel Masters, there was a card in what they call the darkness color, which was like black. During the base set, it was called Death Smoke. It costed 4. I mean, it still costs 4. Yes, if you still play. It was also a spell. So it's 1 less than, say, Dragonfire, but it simply said, destroy one of your opponent's untapped creatures. So a little bit more speculation, not speculation, but like, specifications in it, but a very similar cost and just reasoning. So Death Smoke was played a lot. That was a very popular card to play because it was just basically guaranteed removal. You're able to take care of like your opponent's blockers, any big threats they had on the board, that they didn't attack with yet. It's just very versatile. For only 4 resources to take out whatever you wanted to help you win the game. Yeah, absolutely great. So Dragonfire, it is 1 more. It does have that 5, but it's just a solid removal card. It just says, hey, take out this character. It can target your own, and I could see some situations where you might need to do that. It's not going to be super common. I think, say 90%, actually probably like 95% of the time, you're just going to be targeting your opponent's characters. But maybe there's a combo where you can banish your own character, and it has like a leave play effect when it's banished, and that can help you win the game. So that might work. But otherwise, I think it's a pretty good card compared to, other cards and stuff we've seen so far. I do think it'll see play. I don't think it'll necessarily be played in full copies, like say you can play 4 copies of a card. Would you play all 4 Dragonfire? If there's no other removal spells, I think you would. But I would imagine there being cards that cost less, say maybe 2 or 3 resources, that don't banish, but instead deal damage. So stuff maybe like the lightning bolt spell from Magic the Gathering, which only costs 1 red resource but does 3 damage to like any target you want. I could see cards like that being in this game because we do have persistent damage. And well, we're pretty sure there's persistent damage with the card like Healing Glow, where you can heal the damage off of your characters. So having action cards that deal damage, I think is going to be a real possibility. With that being said, there are, cards like Maleficent, which has like 5 defense, or something like Hades, King of Olympus, who has 7 defense. That's quite a bit. They're going to be really hard to take down. So dropping a Dragonfire on them is going to be great. I'm also under the impression that you have to exert your character when you send them on a quest to get lore, and then your opponent is able to challenge your exerted characters, because otherwise you could just have your Hades, King of Olympus, just sit on the field accumulating lore, and how would your opponent deal with that? So, but we can talk about that in a little bit. So I think Dragonfire being direct, basically instant removal, you're just like, hey, 5 resources, I'm getting rid of this card. Not too bad, not too bad. I think it's a solid 6 out of 10, perhaps even maybe like a high 6, low 7. And I do think there's going to be better removal. I think the 5 cost is just a little iffy to me. I think that's quite a bit. If it was maybe 4, I would be much more comfortable. That might make it a bit overpowered. I also think you can put maybe 2 resources in play at one time, just like in Bleach. So if that was the case, you could drop this if it was 4 cost on like your second turn, but having it be like on your third turn is a little better. But I do think I think it's good. I don't think it's going to be full playset, but I do definitely see it being used in decks that have red. Definitely several copies of it. It does also kind of conflict with Maleficent Monstrous Dragon, the actual character card, because the character has the same effect but on a body. So it's like, how much removal do you really want? That could be a strategy. Maybe red is going to have a ton of like damage spells and removal spells. And then, yeah, if that's an actual thing, I could see you running 4 of these. But even like a dual color deck where you need some other cards, I don't think a full playset's warranted, but I definitely would add a couple copies of Dragonfire to a red deck. So again, I'd say, 6.5 out of 10. Not bad. All right, next up, I'd like to talk about the card Olaf. So the character card Olaf is purple. He costs 1 resource. He has 1 attack, he has 3 defense, and he has the traits Storyborn and Ally. Now, I'm under the impression that allies do not have lore. I don't think Olaf has any lore, just like the wardrobe I don't think has any lore either. I think they're just generic vanilla characters. They are support characters. They're not the stars, of their movie at all. In the movies they're in, they're just kind of there. Are they cool characters? Yeah, absolutely. My kids loved Olaf. He's so funny, but he's not a main character. So he's just there to help you in combat and challenging and whatnot. And that's what I think you can do. I also think that if you have Olaf unexerted on your field, and say I have Elsa on the field, and Elsa is exerted because I sent her to get lore, and my opponent says, hey, I'm going to challenge Elsa with my character, I can be like, okay, my Olaf is going to step in and defend my Elsa. And that's what I think they do. That's my guess. I think you might be able to do that. Otherwise, the allies could just be used for offensive purposes. They're just going to help you challenge opposing characters. Maybe you exert Elsa and send her on a quest to get some lore, and then you use Olaf to fight your opponent's tapped or exerted characters to take them out, and kind of still protecting your own characters that way. That might be a thing. Stat-wise, he's very defensive. The 1 attack isn't really going to do a lot, but the 3 defense means he's going to probably take a hit unless it's from Captain Hook at the early games, because other characters, even stuff that costs 2 or 3 like Elsa, would not be able to take out Olaf in one shot. So that's why I think that perhaps Olaf, or your characters in general, can just kind of step in and block other characters from your opponent challenging. But I don't know, that's my guess. Overall, he's okay. He's like an okay card. He doesn't really offer anything. I think that if there is some sort of ally support, you know, maybe a character or maybe some sort of stationary effect. I forget who it was now, but I watched this video and they were also talking about locations like I did, but she called them landmarks. I think it was like Lorcana Stephanie, something like that, I think. I have to link it, but she called them landmarks, and I thought that was such a much better word than what I called locations. So I'm gonna call them landmarks because of her. I think that's great. So we're gonna say if maybe there's a landmark in play that boosts your allies, yeah, I think he could be pretty good in some sort of like maybe low cost like rush. I know I personally am trying to, my first deck's gonna be some sort of rush aggro deck. I don't know if I'd include Olaf unless I had like no other options. I think he's just, he's okay. He's just, I mean, I think, I wouldn't really run him. He's not gonna be my first choice. So I don't think there's anything wrong with him. So I'm just gonna give him like a 5 out of 10. I know he doesn't have any lore. He's just like, okay. Like I would pick other characters over him for sure. But if I'm running a purple deck and I don't really have like anything to play in the first couple turns, I might throw Olaf in just so I have a body on the field. But so he doesn't really do anything else. Now, if characters are able to block opposing challenges, like they can kind of step in, I would probably make Olaf maybe like a 6 out of 10. That 3 defense can probably help protect people, like protect your Elsa. So not too bad there. But overall, I just think he's an okay card. Maybe even like less than okay. He's going to need some extra cards to make him like better. But he's just a vanilla 1/3. So, you know, it is what it is. So we'll say 5 out of 10 for Olaf. Okay, and next up, I want to talk about this Jumba Jukiba. I think that's right. I've actually never seen Stitch. I think his movies, this is from Stitch. So this guy is a 5 cost green, he's green character. He has 4 attack and 5 defense. He has 2 lore, so not too bad at the cost of being 5. He also is a Dreamborn alien inventor. So I don't see alien or inventor being a big deal if there is tribal support in the first set. I don't see that being, I don't see that being like supported. I think it's going to be stuff like hero, villain, princess, king, stuff like that. I think that's going to be supported in the first set. But regardless, Jumba doesn't have any abilities. He also is like a generic character, but he's not an ally. He's an actual character. So again, that leads me to believe that allies don't have lore. They're just there to help. But being a 5 for a 4/5 with 2 lore, he is pretty solid. I think he's actually a really good card in a, say, a deck that maybe is trying to be a bit more aggressive. I know Aladdin is also green. The new Aladdin that was shown, Aladdin is a 2 for a 2/2, and he has ward, and we can talk about him in a little bit. But that seems like almost like an aggressive card because he's difficult to deal with. He has really good stats. I mean, 2 for a 2/2. That's pretty good. I mean, yes, it is like a generic bear, like from Magic the Gathering, but he basically has, he's just hard to remove. He has to be challenged. And again, even at, you know, 2 costs, I mean, I guess you'd have to use, say, Captain Hook, another Aladdin, you know, to take him out. But stuff like Cruella de Vil, who's another 2 costs, only has 1 attack, cannot take out Aladdin. Elsa, who's a 3 cost, has, oh, okay, she has 2 attack. I don't know why I thought she had 1, but she could take out Aladdin. But Elsa costs 3. So in the realm of 2 costs, not too bad. I know he's generic, he has no abilities, but I think Jumba is actually, you know, a pretty decent card for his body. I mean, cost to stat wise, I think he's pretty good. You know, I think I would much rather play him over, say, Olaf, especially the fact that Jumba has lore. He can help you win the game. So again, a 5 for a 4/5, not too bad. You know, not too bad. I'm gonna give him like a solid 6 out of 10. I think in like an aggressive deck, he probably is gonna be a bit more of a staple. It does kind of stink that he doesn't have an ability, and I think that if there's another 5 cost that does have an ability and also costs 2 lore, he might be pushed out. But I think if you're trying to be a more aggressive green deck, I could definitely see him being in the deck, especially during the first set. I think he's pretty good. I'm gonna give him a 6 out of 10. Probably could rise a bit, you know, if there's definitely green support. But I don't know all the cards, but just looking at him, you know, I think he's good. I think he's a good body. I would not feel bad playing Jumba on like turn 5 or whenever I get 5 resources, because he has the magical defense of 5, and I think that 5 defense is like the number to be at. I think if you have 5 defense, then you're a good card, because, you know, Jumba has 4 attack. He can't take out himself. You know, Aurora has 3 attack. She also costs 5. She can't take out Jumba. She also can't take out herself. But Robin Hood he costs 6. He has 4 attack. He can't take out, you know, a 5 defense person. Stitch has 6 resources and 3 attack. Again, can't take out someone with 5. Mulan has 4. You know, it just goes on. I think 5 is just the you got 5 defense, you're a good card. But he has no ability. So I'm going to say solid 6, maybe even maybe a 7, depending on if there's other green cards. If there's no other green cards in the first set that are around his cost and ability, probably a 7 out of 10. But right now, I'm assuming there's going to be other cards with abilities that might be a little better. So we're going to say 6 out of 10. All right, next up, we'll go ahead and talk about Aurora, since I just mentioned her. Aurora is also a 5 cost card. She is blue. She costs 3 attack. I'm sorry, she has 3 attack and she has 5 defense. She also costs 2 lore, but she has, I guess, like 1.5 abilities. So one of her abilities, we'll just talk about, she has the shift mechanic, which shift is, I'm pretty sure it's like evolution in Pokemon. And she has shift 3. So you can pay 3 resources to play her on top of one of your characters that's already in play named Aurora. So there's probably going to be an Aurora, 1 or 2 Auroras that cost less than 5. I would imagine a 1 or 2 cost Aurora. And you can have them in play first, and then whenever you're ready, you can play down this Aurora and gain the cool abilities. Well, I guess her main ability, which is called Protective Embrace. Protective Embrace says your other characters gain ward, and the ward keyword says opponents can't choose them except to challenge. What this means is I couldn't challenge a character that has ward with the action card Dragonfire, but with, say, using Maleficent's Dragonfire ability, or Elsa's freeze ability, like the tap. I can't target them. The only way that I can target an opposing character that has ward is through a challenge. I challenge them with my character to get rid of them. So I think this is actually really good, especially in like a protective, you know, control-y blue deck. I know, you know, I used to play Hearthstone pretty regularly, especially way back in the day, and the warrior, if you played the warrior, one of their best like archetypes was just playing all the best cards, all the best like creature cards you can play that had high cost, because warrior was able to protect itself. Once you got those in play, it's difficult to remove, and I think Aurora has kind of like that feel. She's just good. She's a good card. She comes on the field, she has the magical 5 defense, so even challenge wise she's going to be difficult to remove, and her ward ability is just so good to protect your other characters. If you're trying to go for some sort of strategy or some combo, Aurora can protect your character, so you're able to do that. And even if you're not trying to go for some sort of combo, some sort of strategy with your characters in play, you're just protecting them. You're forcing your opponents to say, hey, you need to challenge my characters or you can't get rid of them. I do know that Aurora herself does not give ward to herself, so she is open, so she could be targeted buy a removal spell, buy some sort of spell or action card that deals damage, some way to get rid of her. So I wonder if you're able to have two of the same character's name in play. I think you can. If that's the case, if you had two Auroras in play, Aurora, you know, Dreaming Guardian, this Aurora, you're covering your entire team. All Auroras would be protected. So, and that's why I feel, you know, in a deck in like this blue, you could just play good high cost characters with good attack and good defense. You're gonna force your characters to, you have to force your opponent to attack your characters in a challenge. But your characters have great stats. You're going to be defeating all of your opponent's characters just in combat, and your characters are going to stick around because they're going to have such high health, you know, with their defense. You could play something with blue and yellow, where you could play Healing Glow. I think yellow's going to have a lot of Healy cards, or, you know, stuff to remove damage. And, you know, if that's the case, that could be an early indication of some sort of archetype. Maybe blue yellow can be just like a good stuff deck where you just play really good yellow and, you know, blue cards, and then just heal them up, and your opponent can't deal with them because they're being protected by Aurora. But I do think Aurora is like, as soon as she hits the field, your opponent has to deal with her, or they're not going to be able to deal with your other characters. So, I think she's fantastic. She is a Floodborn hero princess. So even on top of all the good stuff, she has some really good keywords that I would imagine we're going to see some support for in the first set with hero and princess. I don't know if Floodborn's going to do anything yet, but I would bet that hero and princess are going to have some support. So ranking wise, I'm giving her a solid 8. A solid 8 out of 10. You know, I would run several copies of Aurora in a blue deck, you know, just because of how good she is. I think she comes down and she immediately affects the board. The only downside is if you didn't have any other characters, that wouldn't be very good. So you're going to have some sort of board state, which again, the yellow cards might be able to help with all their healing. That could be a possibility. But, I mean, aside from that, I think Aurora is going to be in, like, almost every blue deck. I think she's that good. Even without other Auroras. I think if you play just this Aurora, that would be just fine. So, she has, you know, again, she's great stats. 3 attack. If she is challenged, she's going to be dealing, you know, some damage back. So, not too bad. 8 out of 10, possibly even higher. But yeah, I think she'll see play for sure. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the starter deck, you know, cards we see on the front. First up, let's talk about Mulan, because Mulan is just shown first here in the Lorcana card gallery. So Mulan, really solid card. She costs 5. She has 4 attack and 5 defense. So again, the magical number of 5. She is red. She's, you know, a red card, and she's a storyboard hero princess. Those are her traits, very similar to Aurora, but Aurora is Dreamborn and Mulan is Storyborn. So she has one ability. It's called Lead by Example. It says, during your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, your other characters get +1 lore this turn. Mulan also cost 1 lore, and if I didn't mention it, Aurora costs 2 lore, which is pretty good. 2 lore, I think, pretty solid, especially for her body. So, you know, she's just good. She's good. Anyway, so yeah, Mulan says during your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, your other characters get +1 lore this turn. So this is this card, I think at face value is very good, even if we don't know how lore works. You know, if we take my assumption, my gameplay speculation, for example, on your turn, you send out some of your characters to get some lore, right? Now, Mulan herself, she costs 5 resources, right? That's quite a bit. But she only has 1 lore. Just a single one. Aurora, who costs 5 resources, has 2 lore. You can say Robin Hood has 2 lore at 6 resources. Scar probably has like 2 or so. Stitch has 3 resources. The reason I bring this up is 5 resources for only 1 lore is not a lot. But she has something because she is a main character. So what I think happens is if you have her on the field, you send your other characters out to get lore. So you exert them and you say, hey, we're gonna go, get some lore stuff. Then your Mulan will challenge one of your opponent's characters, hopefully, that you're able to defeat. Something with less than, 4 or less, defense. Again, I think 5's a magic number. So if she's able to take something out, which is what her goal, now all of your characters who are out getting lore now get 1 more. And it doesn't matter that Mulan doesn't get any lore. She only has 1. But if you have 3 or 4 other characters, if she's played in some sort of rush deck, you can have 3 or 4 other characters in play. And if that's the case, you're probably going to have 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 lore, depending on what you have in play. And then she banishes a character. Now you gained +3 lore on top of all the other lore you have. That's pretty good. And you removed one of your opponent's characters because she banished. It does say whenever. I don't think you can challenge multiple times without some sort of extra aid. There could be an action card that says your chosen character challenges an opposing chosen character. If that's the case, this card's even better. You're going to want to play that card. You're going to play Mulan with whatever that card is. Could also be a character you have. It says maybe exert. It says chosen character challenges opposing chosen character. Again, really good. If that's the case, right? I don't think you could be able to do it more than once, especially right now. I could be wrong. If that's the case, Mulan just shoots up even more. This is even better than she already is. But we're going to pretend like that doesn't exist because we don't know. Just at face value, I'm assuming you send your characters on a quest, and then Mulan fights something, challenges something, defeats it, you get more lore. With that, being the case, she's going to be a staple in just all red decks, I think she's absolutely fantastic. Right now, I'm going to say at least a solid, probably 9 out of 10. I'm going to say, I would say 10 out of 10, probably a broken card. If you are able to use other effects to force characters to challenge each other, to essentially battle. If you can do that, 10 out of 10 broken card, probably going to get nerfed. Because you could just win before your opponent has a chance to really do anything. I think she's going to be used in like a premier rush deck. If my assumptions for challenging and stuff is that if that's how that works. I don't know. I'm not, I don't really know. But that's what I'm assuming. I'm assuming you send your people out on a quest to get lore. Mulan goes and then fights somebody, takes them out, maybe fights something your opponent sent out because they're exerted, and now you're just ahead. So I think she's great. I think she's a fantastic card. So I'm gonna say 9 out of 10. I'm gonna say best card revealed so far. There's no spoiler, just best card, possibly 10 out of 10. So that's my guess. Okay, let's move on.